I joke about the technology we have today. I know this can launch a rocket, and I'm just using it for a spreadsheet. Y'all have just expanded how I can utilize AI to help develop my team, to help improve some of the work we're doing in the office. And the biggest goal, right, is to affect the lives of students.
Welcome to AI Fishbowl, the show where you get to watch as we coach and train education professionals to solve their problems using AI tools.
So get ready to elevate your educational practices with AI Fishbowl with me, Audrey Ellis, and Zia Hassan. Hi, Zia and Alvin. It's great to see you.
Hey, Audrey.
Great to see you as well.
Alvin, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of AI Fishbowl. I loved getting to meet you back in June at Texas A&M's Katie conference. I learned so much from everyone there, and it was awesome connecting with you in the AI office hours. It was so fun to learn a little bit about your role. So I was thinking maybe if you could give an introduction of yourself and what you do, that can get us started.
No, absolutely. Alvin Johnson. I am the Director of Academic Advising Services at Prairie View A&M University, which is a part of the Texas A&M system. And so it was very exciting to encounter you at the Katie conference to where we were looking at how can AI be infused in not just the classroom portion of education, but also in support areas like my area, advising. How do we teach our team about AI? How do we teach students responsible ways of using AI? And you had some wonderful tips and tools that piqued my interest.
Good. Yeah, we had a chance to make a custom GPT, Zia, and we trained it on the. I think it was there's some new language around FERPA, and this is just coming out of the back of my
Yep,
head somehow. I'm
you are
impressed I still
remembering it
remember
correctly.
there's some new language around FERPA and when it's appropriate to share data with parents or not, and especially if they're dual enrollment. And so we were talking about how hard it can be to train your frontline staff when you oversee a team and there's so much going on every day, and they're also seeing students. And so creating a bot where they could ask questions and kind of ask against the new FERPA regulations could be an interesting use case. But then we were like, whoa, what if we made a bot with the academic catalog? That became kind of like we didn't have time for it in person. And I said, Alvin, you should come on our podcast and we'll see if we can give it a try.
No, this is so exciting for me.
Let's start with what would you say your current comfort level with AI is on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like you don't use it at all, 10 being like you should be hosting this podcast.
I would say I am a comfortable 4.
Okay, cool. And I guess I don't know that I feel like I'm a 10, so maybe we need to call in some ChatGPT bots to host this podcast if we expect a 10.
I always tell people that if you're going to rate yourself a 10, that just means like you could show somebody how to use these tools, but we're all learning right now. So no one's really a real expert yet when it comes to
Totally.
LLMs.
Totally. So, could you give me an idea of what kind of uses we might want to use this? I know it's about the academic catalog and creating some sort of bot, but what's the problem that we're trying to solve?
And the problem we're trying to solve is that many times there are a lot of rules that academic advisors have to know, and many times students, while they sometime are familiar with the idea that these rules exist, they don't always know where to find it, because to tell a student what a rule is sometimes for them to question. It's like, prove it. And so guiding them to where it is actually written and codified that no, we did not just make this up. But then also, because there are so many rules, the catalog is a good place, a repository of all that information. But sometime, because there is so much information, it's a challenge for an advisor to quickly get to that information. And I can see where a chatbot would be a good opportunity to, ask some questions to the chatbot. And correct me if I'm wrong, that often sometime with it will not only give you the information, but you could also set it up to where it'll give you the link to that information if you do it right.
Yeah, definitely. If you're asking the tool to link you to a specific website where it got its information, I haven't used it. I guess you could have it specify the number of a PDF, the page
Ah,
number.
yes.
I haven't tried that, so we can give it a go today. So that sounds good. So you're imagining that this could be used by both students and staff. It sounds like to kind of understand the policies and rules around your institution. So really, just like a general purpose FAQ bot around the catalog.
Y-
Does that sound right?
Yes, and if I remember the wise wisdom of hearing at the conference, it's always good to have people test it out for
Yes.
accuracy. So probably for the first round and iteration, it would just be the advisors making
Yep.
sure that the information is being taken care of.
Perfect. Yes, I'm glad you remember that. So important that we catch any issues or hallucinations, that it's not waxing prolific about something that isn't actually in the PDF, which it can do sometimes. So I think that sounds good. Zia, do you have what you need to get started?
Yeah, let me reflect it back at you, so that make sure that I'm on the same page and understand. But you've got a book of rules that these are rules that advisors follow, but also students need to know. The rule book is a little bit dense, 720 pages. So expecting students to know and memorize every single rule is going to be tricky. As is saying, like, well, if you want to find out the answer to your question, you got to wade through this 720-page document and try and find it. So what we're trying to do here is create a bot that allow students to interact and interface with this book, ask it questions, get it to point to a particular part of the PDF, and that way they can have a little bit of ease around getting their questions answered without having to activate a human necessarily. Is that accurate so far?
Yes.
Great. Any additions from you? That anything I left out from there?
No, I do not think there's anything missing. I think the only thing I just would probably reiterate is that the first go around, just before it gets to the students, that the advisors will be using it primarily. Because the one thing I learned with students, as soon as something gives them the slightest bit of inaccurate information, their trust level plummets.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. So I'm thinking one thing that I'm thinking, and I'd love to hear anybody's take on this in the room, is when we make this, let's have it let's have it ask the very off the bat, who is using this? Is it a student or is it an advisor? And then that way it can use the same book, but it can tailor their answer to whether it's an advisor or a student.
I like that.
Okay, cool. Let's do it. Okay, so you opted to have me drive today. So I'm going to
Yes.
share my screen and hope that I can do this properly. There we go. Okay. That is are you seeing my ChatGPT window?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you will see here what I did, and I actually did this because last time we tried to do this, we had we had issues. But if you use the pro version of ChatGPT. Now, as I understand it, the custom GPTs are available to all users, but to create one, you need to have a pro account. Am I getting that right, Audrey? I think that's correct.
I think so.
Okay. Which is, $20 a month. And I feel like I used to kind of say, like, well, maybe we shouldn't talk about the pro features, but I do feel like these days there are a lot of folks that, $20 a month for what this offers is ridiculously cheap. So you be the judge of that. But we'll show you how to use this because I think it'll solve the problem that we're trying to solve. And if I click on the top right corner where my initial is, one of the options I have is my GPTs. And so I just already clicked that. I guess I didn't. Now I have. And you'll see a few that we've created just as we've been working with other folks. But I'm going to create a new one today, create a GPT. And that opens up what is called the GPT Builder. And that opens up what is called the GPT Builder. And right off the bat, you can kind of see this is a very similar format to ChatGPT. The only difference is that we're going to be building our own version of ChatGPT, our own instance of ChatGPT. So to lay this out, let's give it some context. I'm not going to upload the PDF yet, but I am going to give it some context. And I'm just gonna say what we're doing. I am the and what is your role, Alvin? Say it one more time.
Director of Academic Advising Services.
Okay. Services at a large university. We try not to mention the names just because then it might know something about your university. Okay, so director of academic advising services at a large university, and
And
I
actually, I
guess
would say we're a medium-sized
I was about
university.
to ask. Yeah,
We have about
mediums.
8,000 students,
Okay, I'm gonna put that in there. It may not matter in the end, like how many students, but let's just add it in there, or
or
so.
those are
Um,
undergraduates, rather.
sure. I want to create a GPT bot that will, I'll say, ingest a PDF document of rules, and then allow both students and advisors to interact with it, asking it questions, having it break things down, etc. All right, so now I'm going to use the paperclip here to upload from my computer. And you'll notice that it's going to give it a name in a second, and it's also going to give it an icon, or at least it should. It's saying, how about Academic Advisor Bot? Well, Alvin, what do you want to call this? This is going to be the official name that students will see. So what makes the most sense?
I would say undergraduate catalog bot.
Okay. And should we also say that it's part of the Texas A&M, whatever the campus is, so that it's not mistaken, because this will be available to anybody. I think there might be a way to make it so you can only access it if you have the link, but it'll be something that people that might be out there. So should we give it a more specific title, or you just want to call it undergraduate
And I
advising
guess you
bot?
can call it the PVAMU catalog bot.
Catalog bot. So like that, like I've written.
Yes.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna pop that in there, and now it should give it the name. It is thinking. Right now we're trying to develop its personality a little bit. What are some words you would use to describe if you had to envision this bot as a person? What are some qualities that they might have, or even like types of responses? Don't talk about this or talk about this. What comes to mind for you?
I can't think about things that I would say for it not to talk about, but what I would want it to be is informative.
Okay.
I would want it to also be informal because a lot of times at the university level we use such formal language and it goes over students' head. And so um, in there, okay, so good. You said not too academic.
Yeah, I just kind of threw that
Yeah,
in there as a
nope, that's
qualifier. Yeah.
very helpful. Um, hmm.
What about citing its source basically from the PDF?
Yes, that's a good point. So let's say, and
Yes.
please make sure if you reference any page in the PDF, you mentioned the page number for all such results. Let's see if it actually does that, but we'll start with that. Anything else? Maybe this is where we could say that we want it to ask if it's a student or an advisor using it.
Yes.
I,
Oh. Hmm.
I was also going to suggest like to exclusively stick to the material in the PDF and not
Oh yeah,
assume anything. So if you don't know the answer, refer them to blank blank email address or whatever, so we can avoid possible misinformation.
And see, those are those important prompt engineering tips that I'm
yes.
still being cognizant of and learning. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes. It does assume a lot. I'm sure you're familiar with the term hallucination, where sometimes it'll make things up. And now that it knows
I
like
like
what
the
data
little hallucination.
yeah, we like it unless we're trying to give students good information, and then it
Correct.
becomes tricky. Okay, so stick to the material in the PDF. Don't use your extra knowledge of these programs. If I'll say if the information is not included in the PDF, then the stock response would, in that case, would the stock response be reach out to your advisor or ask someone else, or what would it be?
And if a student is using the platform, for them to ask their academic advisor
Okay.
for more information. If it's an advisor using the form, then the advisor should reach out to their supervisor.
Okay. Reach out to their academic advisor. And if it's an advisor using it, tell them to reach out to a supervisor. Okay. Anything else that either of you could think of to put here? We can always add more later.
I think maybe this is where we can just say ask
Oh,
first
yeah.
ask if they are a student or an advisor.
Make sure when the bot begins that we determine if the audience is a student or an advisor. And I'm going to even say, don't I feel like a programmer here, like putting in guardrails. Don't move on until you determine which role the user is playing. That way, like if they just go into asking questions, it'll be like, nope, wait, hold on, tell me which one
And
you are.
maybe one more thing is just be helpful
Yes.
No,
and like caring.
oh, yes, and caring. But
Yes.
what's beautiful, right? You were just mentioning being like a programmer to where we're not using programming language, right? But
Right.
you're being very cognizant of creating the right parameters.
Right.
And lay people like me, right, would forget some of those small things that would help you get to what you really want.
Yeah, I tend to use GPT and other LLMs a lot like I would think of writing code, even though I'm not the most proficient coder in the world, because it's a computer after all. I often tell people, for my whole life, I've learned to speak in the language of computers, and now it knows my language, which is like
Ah, I like
the
that
wildest thing.
comparison.
Yeah. Okay. Any other additions or subtractions to this, either of you? Going. Okay, let's pop it in. Let's see. All right. It's going to update our GPT. And I see that it's already added some stock stuff here, so I'm curious to see. Okay, so the context for the bot has been updated. Let's try generating the profile picture again. If you have any additional refinements or changes, let me know. I don't see an icon yet, but that's okay. I'm not super concerned about it. I am going to click over to configure, and I just want to see if there's anything here that we need to change. This seems like this is the right description. And this seems like it's the right description too. Now, there is something called conversation starters, and that's what you're seeing here in these four boxes. Things like, what are the prerequisites for computer science, or can you explain the university's grading policy? These are things that it automatically generated as potential questions to ask. We can change that. So is there anything, and we could start here by saying, I'm a student, or I'm an advisor. It should ask that anyway. But are there like what would be a good start? A few starting places for either a student or an advisor.
Well, can I add another preference to
Yeah.
the title? Because going back to the PDF, that's important is for them to know that this is the 24-25 catalog because that
For
matters.
undergrads.
Yeah, undergrad.
Yeah. Oh, right. We did say undergrad. Let's do that. Is that correct? How do I have it now?
Yes, because that's going to matter in case somebody gets it, and if they're not clear on the year, the
Yes.
rules on here may not um, apply to them.
Right. Ideally, you would update this every year, but in the event that it stays out there somehow, yeah, you want them to know that.
Yes.
Okay.
But I do
So,
like your recommendation of conversation starters that I am a student, I am an academic advisor.
okay, I am a student looking for answers. And I guess I could say the same thing. I'm an advisor looking for answers. I don't want to be too specific there because it could be policies or it could be they're looking up courses or whatever.
Hmm.
Are there any other conversations we have we can add up to 5, it looks like here. So are there any more that you can think of?
I kind of like those examples because it now presents to the user that they're supposed to specify what kind of role they have and a possible question they might ask.
Yeah.
And there's 750 pages of this document, so there's so many questions they could ask that I feel like just one random specific example is kind of helpful.
Okay. Okay. Let's keep it as it
Unless
is.
does that work for you,
Oh, yeah.
Alvin?
And I would just add that one last one that was previously on there, and that's explaining the grading policy, because students
Oh
often
yeah,
have that, especially incoming
I
freshmen or
bet.
first year students that want it to look like high school.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it looks like I was wrong. It looks like every time we reach the limit, they add another one. So we could potentially add more, but we can always come back to it. Also, you'll see there's a knowledge section here, and of course, right now that contains our PDF. Is there anything else you can think of that may need to be included here? Is there another web page that's going to be useful or anything like that?
Now, they say web browsing, the only thing that I can imagine is where they have the PDF is using the link to the catalog.
Okay, so
But I think
more.
there's a simpler catalog PDF, but it's
Oh,
the home
yeah,
page.
yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's see if we can get it there because I'm thinking that probably I haven't looked at the PDF in depth. But if it links to the web page, it's possible that I could also add in the instruction of, if there's a link that you can go to see more information, like please reference that. It might do that automatically. So let's see what we get from it. And this will allow us to test it. That way, if we need any changes, we've got our create screen on the left here. Now it is asking us more questions and it will continue to do that. I don't think we need to necessarily say what specific guidelines the bot should follow. We've kind of given it that information already. So let's see. I'm just going to see if I just say, what is the grading policy for courses? It should prevent me from saying that. It should tell me that I need to say what I am first. So let's try that. Okay, it didn't do that. Okay. So let me just verify, but we'll go back and fix the student thing. But is this all correct? Just making sure it's not hallucinating or anything.
Yep, it looks correct to me. It looks like
Okay.
it went into the PDF and it's reading accurately and even
Yep.
giving you everything on that page because beyond the grading policy, right? It even
Yep.
starts going into the GPA and the examples of the calculations we have for it.
Yep. And if you're not able to see this because you're listening on the podcast, it just spat out the entire grading system, as well as limitations on repetition of courses, grade point average calculation, and all of this is coming from that PDF. At least that's what we believe. It looks like that's the case. And here we go. For more detailed information, please refer to pages 24 to 26. So let's verify that. I'm just going to take a quick look and see, is that accurate? 25 to 26. I know it's not showing on my screen, but I'll just tell you. 25. Yep, 26 has this exact information. It's directly from there. Fantastic. Okay, great. Let me go back to GPT Builder, and I'm going to say, make sure to not answer any questions until the user has stated whether they are an advisor or a student. I'm going to add this in. Let me know if you like this.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say maybe instead of like I think what we are missing here is telling it that it needs to ask what the
Did I
students,
not say
what the
that?
users. I think we just said don't move on.
Until you've
Or,
determined. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's specifically say, make sure to start any conversation by asking whether the user is a student or an advisor, and do not answer any questions until the user stated whether it's a little
yeah,
repetitive, but I think that's fine. We
good
can repeat things
maybe.
twice for GBT. And then the thing I was going to say was, once you determine which role the user is, speak to it in second person as if it is that user. Adjust your language and way of working to adapt to that particular role. What do you think of that? I kind of think that'll be nice. That way it'll speak maybe slightly differently to a student than it would to an advisor. Maybe not like super noticeably, but could be a nice little touch.
Yeah, I like it. I think you could probably add, like, for example, for students, like, really the question here is more about students, like,
Yeah.
try to eliminate jargon or it provide definitions of jargon for students if it comes up.
Very important because I have to remind the advisors to do that IRL.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Great suggestions. Anything else we should add before submitting this one?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
If we in the eliminate jargon, let's also just say parentheses without changing the meaning from the PDF.
Yes. No. What did I just do? Oh my God. I'm sure it saved that. So let me go back. I have a weird keyboard. Okay, let's mark this time down, Audrey.
I did.
Thank you.
Ask if they're a
Yeah.
student or an advisor.
At the start of the conversation, ask if the user is a student or advisor.
And don't move on.
Yeah, do not move on until this question is answered. Then, if it is a student, eliminate any jargon without changing the meaning of the words. Explain it in
A student-friendly way.
Yeah, student-friendly way. Do we need to make any specifications about if it's an advisor, or is that just sort of that should be fine?
No, I'd be concerned if the advisor didn't understand the jargon.
Yeah, they may actually want the jargon so they understand what the heck they're talking about. Okay, I know our previous prompt was a little bit longer, but is there anything I've left out here?
I think it's good.
Okay, let's pop that in. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, let's see. Let me see if I ask it now. What is the grading policy for courses? Let's see if it follows the. Looks like it's not following the directions. Oh,
Yeah.
It's saying, would you like to proceed with this update? Yes, please proceed. Now it's updating. Okay.
I'm going to just cut that part.
Cut what part?
Like the
that generation.
Before
Yeah.
the proceed.
I'm just going to make a note to cut it. It's just
I'm going to refresh this page then. Okay. All right. So now we've added that in. Let's see. What is the grading policy? Now, if it still doesn't do it, then I'm going to move on because I don't want to spend too much time belaboring this one. Sometimes GPT just does not want to cooperate, but we'll see what we get here. That's still not.
To be stubborn is to be human.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
that's alarming, Alvin. I don't know how I feel about this.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Let's say. I don't know, Audrey. Can you think of any reason why it would not be listening to me? I'm trying to get.
Could you go to configure where it says configure?
Yeah.
Can you go to the top of that block of instructions? So I would say PVAMU catalog bot learns about the user before parentheses students or advisors, like before helping period. Then that's the only thing I can think of.
Whether the user is a student or an advisor, and if it is a student, adjusts the language to be jargon free without changing meaning of words. All right, let's see here. So it actually says that again. Or no, it doesn't. Okay, so that should be good.
So then,
Um,
yeah, can you, the
yeah,
question is, how does that go to the save,
yeah. That is the question. I'll just say I added more instructions in the configure page. Can you update the bot?
Hmm.
Sometimes you just have to ask it like it's a person. Like, excuse me. Okay. Additional instructions. Okay. So I'm going to just refresh just in case. And I'm going to say, okay, what is the grading policy? Sorry, I'm just like stuck on this. Like, it's got to work. I don't understand why.
Well,
Okay.
Zia, can you go back to configure so we can see if it actually saved the thing? Huh.
Yeah.
This is where I get to my limit with making bots myself because I've found it to be really non compliant if you don't kind of in your first shot of training it, tell it to do something.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so I'd be curious, Alvin, if you were to try doing this again from scratch,
Hmm.
if you started with what is the exact flow of things you want it to follow, I think there's a possibility that that could help. But I think this is where like actual products down the road that are built for this are going to be a lot more powerful
I can see
because
that.
there's so much more that you can do than we can necessarily in but it is interesting that I'm curious. I'll have to do some research on actions.
Yeah, that seems like a very advanced feature. So we'll do some research. But for now, let's move on from trying to get it to to ask. Let's just say I am a student, and I want to know, and you can tell me, Alvin, because you probably get these questions all the time.
Oh, I have
What's it?
two things that I'm very interested to see what it would produce back to the student.
Okay,
So the first thing is simple. I am a student. I want to know about double majors.
okay. Any parameters around that? Like, tell it to me in one sentence, like, or just we'll see what happens.
Actually, since we know that it may give us verbatim what's in the catalog, yeah,
Yep,
let's say I want to know about double majors and double dipping
and double dipping, and any
in
mhm.
in 3 sentences or less.
Okay, perfect. Let's do it. Okay, we got two sentences. Is this a pretty accurate description of the two things we looked at?
That is, but some programs may not allow it. Yes.
Wow. Okay. All right. Okay. Should we try from the advisor perspective? Maybe is there a question they might want to know, like something a little more advanced or a little more?
Now, this is the unfortunate part that I know is not in the catalog, but I would want to know what are the majors that do not allow double dipping in double majors? And so, with this follow up question, sticking with the double majors from an advisor's perspective, I'd be curious of what the bot would share if we say, I am an advisor. What are the majors that allow double dipping when double majoring?
Okay. When double majoring. And so for the listener out there that may not be seeing the screen, I've typed in now I'm an advisor, so it should know that's my role. So and also notice it stuck to our instructions about saying speaking in second person to the students. So hopefully now that does the same thing for advisors as well. Double dipping is permitted for double majors in cases where both majors list the same course as a support area requirement, or when both majors are in similar fields, such as two areas of engineering or business. Programs that do not allow double dipping will indicate so in their respective program information, etc. Alvin, is this accurate?
So, so it did not fully answer the question because I was hoping it was going to list the specific
Okay.
majors. But it's funny because it read my mind because I realized that I used jargon and I mentioned double dipping without clarifying what double dipping is.
Yeah.
And
Well,
a
and also
student may not know what double dipping is.
true. And but I think it explained it here, right? Double dipping allows one course to fulfill requirements for both majors when applicable. Is that the definition?
Yes.
Okay. So that's good. At least that then it understands like the student may not know double dipping. But I agree that, maybe more training is necessary later on to say really explain any jargon that you need to explain if they use it in the prompt. So let me see if I ask for a list of majors that allow this, if it'll do that.
So it's being true to the catalog and only giving you the information from the catalog.
Oh,
So it's
so
not
that's
in the
not in the
catalog.
And this is an instance where we did um, ask it to refer the student. Oh, yep. No, for
but
detailed information, consult the university catalog or specific program requirements. Um,
so
and
is
let
this
me
in the
just double
catalog?
check.
Oh, you're looking right now. Sorry, I can't see the screen.
Nope,
So
nope, you're
okay,
good.
okay, take your time.
So I'm just double checking. And I'm going through. And I guess it's doing something similar to what we recommended. The catalog is, of course, towards both of them. Programs that do not allow. Yeah, so they're referring the student to the specific program to check
Okay,
there.
so it's not in the catalog then, like exactly which ones have allowed double majors.
Double dipping.
Oh,
Double
well,
dipping.
well, it is in the catalog. The only downfall is you have to go to each major yourself to find it. So that's kind
Okay.
of what they're telling us. Like you have to go to the specific program requirements, and that
Okay. Well,
is
let me.
the information that, yes. What about psychology?
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw in like a what about psychology? Let's see if that. Do you know off the top of your head if that allows double majors, double dipping? Catalog does not specifically list with majors allow double dipping when double majoring with psychology. For detailed, is there enough information in the catalog that it could be able to answer this question?
And that is a great question because I am going to go off on a ledge and say it's going to depend on the major.
Okay. 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 Well, I think this is a reasonable. I mean, because that way, at least now they could get a lot of questions answered, and then anything that's deeper, like, oh, I really want psychology and architecture. Can I double dip with that? Then they can reach out to their advisor, and hopefully that filters out people who have basic questions that are coming to the advisors. Yeah.
I
Any.
think one thing that you could do too, Alvin, is if you have like a giant spreadsheet or other relevant data about this, like thinking back to my days in IR,
Hmm.
maybe we would have had something like a tracker or whatnot that the department used or the team used. You could upload those to the configurations of the bot too to augment like where these Easter eggs are hidden and put it in a more accessible format. Although that would be a different type of like task. And I'm very curious to know if you could get it to generate it. It's not what we asked the bot to do. I wonder if you could just go to ChatGPT, start a conversation with it, and ask it to create a table of all the majors that allow double dipping.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we have
That's
time
a
for
good
that.
idea. Yeah. I mean, maybe not for this particular session, but that would be you could just go to ChatGPT, not the bot itself,
Hmm.
but like Audrey was saying, just regular ChatGPT, and then use that spreadsheet as part of this knowledge base. And really, then anything. I mean, it's kind of limitless at that point because maybe you hit some limitations with this bot, but it's stuff that you could add in as knowledge separately through other documents.
No,
That's really useful.
absolutely. And I love that recommendation for homework. I'm going to do that homework.
I'm trying it right now, actually. I don't know if it will. Uh, it was too long of didn't want me to an issue with uploading. Anyway, I'm curious. We'll have to let us know how that homework goes, Alvin.
No, absolutely.
So, Alvin, as we wrap up here, we're curious to know, you walked in with some knowledge, you're walking out with hopefully some new knowledge. What's something really important that you're walking away with today?
Oh, the one thing that I was really impressed on that y'all did so well is the prompt engineering. And although, as you were saying, right, you weren't using techie language, but it took me back to junior high when the English teacher was trying to get us to write a good essay. And I don't know if you're familiar with the peanut butter and jelly explanation. And she
Yeah.
made the peanut butter and jelly sandwich exactly the way you gave the directions. And I just had a flashback. I was like, oh, if I say this, I'm only going to get this. And if I say too much, I'm going to get too much.
Yeah. How do you think that this kind of bot would benefit your user base?
Oh, I think they would find this very beneficial in the fact that while search is a good function on the website sometime, um, it doesn't always give you the information in the way that this has been presented. And it's, I think, is going to be more user friendly.
Okay. Any follow-ups, Audrey, before we wrap?
Yeah, so I did just have it start doing this.
Oh,
Um, so I'll have to send you, Alvin, in email and Zia. It took a couple nudges. It says it's not available. And then I said, no, I want you to do research from the catalog, looking at each program at a time. And it started doing that. It started with I can share my screen for 1 second. I
well,
know we're
do you
wrapping
have a
up.
file? We could throw it in there just real quick.
No, no,
Oh,
I'm not that far along.
okay.
But I can just
Yeah,
share.
feel free to.
So it started, for example, it's not comprehensive, but
Oh, wow,
um,
that's great.
so it started making this. So I'll be curious to know, Alvin, if you think these are accurate.
Oh, but even if it's not accurate, I would love to have that right and then have the advisor go through to
Oh, yeah.
clarify by college because I never thought to do this. And the
And then
students
you could
are
upload
very
that.
interested in this.
You could upload the validated version.
Yes.
That's cool.
I
Cool
imagine
idea.
this is a table that a student would want that is probably asked for it, but it's like, oh, we got to go through the whole catalog, and now you got AI to do it for you.
Oh, no. And there are so many students that want multiple majors to add value to their interest and they see how things intersect. But there's not always instant information to see if it's worth it because if I can't double dip, that means I have to do so many more hours. And so if they know they can double dip, they know they can get more bang for that one course.
And I could see them going to the bot and saying, okay, I really want to double major in these two things. I'm not sure if I can do it in 5 years. I'm not sure what
Yes.
the value would be. Can you tell me a little bit more? And then it would hopefully give them, with this new knowledge, all the information that they possibly need. Like, no, you can't double dip on this, but here's a related program where you could double dip or whatever it might be.
Yes.
Wow, this is cool. So we'd love to follow up with you at some point as you're using this. And do you hope to have it launched in the fall? Is that part of the plan?
Oh, for the advisors, absolutely. Now, I jokingly tell my team I have a boss, and so
Mhm.
so I don't fully know how they would feel about this. I know that they're open to many ideas, but I'll definitely have my boss play with the bot as well to see if this is something that they would feel comfortable with us releasing to the students. But my advisors will be using this tomorrow.
Great. Well, please let us know what they think of it. Any snags you run into, any further developments. We always want to know how people are using the stuff that we teach them. So we appreciate you being on our show. Any closing thoughts from either of you?
No, my closing thought is just a big thank you because um, I joke about the technology we have today, right? And I was like, I know this can launch a rocket, and I'm just using it for a spreadsheet. And so I like that y'all have just expanded how I can utilize AI to help develop my team, to help improve some of the work we're doing in the office. And the biggest goal, right, is to affect the lives of students.
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Alvin, thank you.
Pleasure.
It was great to see you.
Absolutely. Y'all be well.